record. And so you're aware that this meeting is now being recorded. So welcome to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. The CCRA is a 72-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to being a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. The CCRA is the registered community organization, RCO, for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street to JFK Boulevard and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. Our committee works as follows. First, applicants are to present. We asked applicants present the specific refusals or referrals. We ask for no interruptions as applicants give their full presentation. After the presentation, the zoning committee will have a chance to ask questions. After the zoning committee's questions are completed, we open the meeting to the community. When addressed, we ask that you state your name and address. We ask that you keep your questions succinct and to the variance being discussed. We also ask that people not repeat others' questions. If you agree with someone's position, you are welcome to simply state that you agree. If there is a spokesperson for the neighbors, we ask that this person stand and speak for the group. After we hear from all applicants and listen to the community comments, our committee meets in closed session. We vote in one of three ways: oppose, not oppose, not oppose with provisos. CCRA never votes in favor of any application. Our decision is emailed to the councilperson, the ZBA, and the applicant. Important, no matter how we decide, if you are concerned with a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. CCRA Zoning Committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA. With that said, we'll turn to our first and only applicant, and that is application from for 140 South Broad Street, which is zone CMX5. It's a referral for the erection of an addition of a roof deck above the existing attached structure. Size and location is shown on plans for use of the addition as an extension to the existing private club as previously approved. This is for the Union League. The reason for the referral is that whereas roof decks accessory or to a non-residential use require special exception approval in the CMX5 zoning, commercial zoning district. So again, just as a reminder, a refusal, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate why the community should accept the zoning change. This is different from a referral where the burden is on the community, why not to accept zoning change. And this case is a referral. So I think we have our representatives here, Jared Klein and others. So I will turn on screen sharing and I will turn this over to you for your presentation. So please, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. And good evening, everybody. My name's Jared Klein. I'm with Blank Rome, and I have the pleasure to represent the Union League here tonight in this special exception. I will share my screen, but before I did that, just wanted to give you a sense of what it is that we're doing here. So this application is for an addition to the roof of the existing Union League building. The idea here is to offer a space that will have a sort of an extension of the existing dining offerings with some outdoor space, and to be able to do it in a way that doesn't take up sidewalk space and provides new amenity for existing users of the Union League. We are very cognizant of the fact that this is a very well-known sort of landmark historic building. And as I'll explain a little bit as I go through our materials, we've really gone to great lengths to try to respect the architectural history of this building and to contextualize this rooftop addition as much as possible with what is already there surrounding it. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure. Can everybody see that? Yes. Okay, I saw at least one thumbs up, so I'm gonna roll forward. So I'll start just by reiterating the referral that you all just heard a moment ago. So the only reason that we're here is because using a roof deck and a CMX5 for a non-residential purpose requires this special exception. So if this was an apartment building with residents, we'd be able to have this outdoor space, but because it has a commercial use, we are seeking this special exception. This is the project site here. I won't spend a ton of time because I'm sure that the board is very, very familiar with the Union League and where it is and what the building generally looks like. But this is our sort of site context here. The amount of space that we're adding is about 9,400 square feet of space that'll have indoor dining, kitchen, and storage space, and this outdoor terrace of about 1,400 square feet. This is really the rendering that we have that will show you most clearly what it is that we're doing. So this is the existing building here. This area here would be the addition. It is set back. We have some fencing and some vegetation along the top to set it back from the parapet. This area here at its highest point is 16 feet. That's to the top of this sort of rounded dome skylight in the middle. The interior ceiling height is about 9 feet. And so we really tried to make this as low as possible to achieve the programming we needed to have inside, but without having any unnecessary height on top of the building. Another rendering to give you a sense of what this would look like. Again, we have some vegetation, the outdoor terrace space, and the actual rooftop addition that is set back substantially from the front of the building here. This area here, as you can see, that's sort of lightly shaded at the top. As part of our historical investigation of the property, we came across some drawings from 1906, where the original architect, Trombauer, had actually drawn out what he thought could be a rooftop addition to the Union League. What we did in terms of our design tried to mirror the envelope of what he had proposed back in 1906, although his was much higher. He had this area here that's shaded is not part of our proposal, but was part of the area that Trombauer was thinking. So we took some of his design intentions, including some of the windows, the metal railing, but we are not trying to go as high as he was thinking, about 100 years ago. This is a section drawing just to show you how we're setting this back from the edge of the building. So this new area is here. This is the existing cornice and parapet line. And so we're setting back this new material back from the side of the building. And we're doing that intentionally to try and make this as unobtrusive as possible to anyone who might be looking at the building. We think that the final product is going to be very inconspicuous, and that many people would really have to be looking to find it for it to be visible from street level. Again, other views, this is the proposed Sansom Street elevation. This would be the new area here. And this is to give you a sense of, more of a traditional zoning site plan of the space. There's a 15-foot setback within the parapet and additional setbacks from the exterior wall. This is our new construction space here, and Broad Street being here and 15th Street being here. So we've attempted to set it back from 15th Street as far as we possibly could, while maintaining access to the existing infrastructure. So there are certain things within the Union League, elevator access and such, that we can't very easily move around. So we're working within the context of the existing building, but trying to set it back as far as possible. These are some sample sight lines from Sansom, Moravian, and 15th Street. So as you can see, if you're right up next to the building, you can't really see the new addition at all. And as you scale back from the building, you're going to see less of it. And we have some photos that I'll show you in just a minute that really show what the views are going to look like from different places around the surrounding area. It's obviously a rendering of what the outdoor terrace space would look like. The intention here is to have very soft lighting and features. We want this to be as unobtrusive as possible. Although the Union League is a private club, it's certainly not a party club, and there's no intention to have loud or noisy gatherings out here. It's the intention to be, people sitting, having cocktails, meals, and having lighting that's very appropriate for the scale of what's happening there. These are some context slides, and the reason we're showing you this is what's going to follow are some pictures of it, how the addition is going to look from these various sites around the neighborhood. So as you can see from A1, A2, and A3, the building addition would not be visible from these locations. This is 15th Street from the north. Sansom Street from the west, you can just barely see the addition here if you're really looking for it. And that would be primarily viewed by people who are now enjoying the extended outdoor dining on Sansom Street. This is Sansom Street West. This is the existing, the proposed, you can again just slightly see. And this is looking from Sansom Street West. So you can see this is the outline. So you would see the extension of the building here. The materials that we're going to be using mimic pretty closely the limestone of the existing Union League building, and we're going to be having some other copper and other materials that are consistent with the existing architecture that would make up the exterior of that. Again, this picture of Moravian Street, again, it's not going to be particularly visible from here, and it will be visible if you happen to find yourself in the Moravian Street alley. This would be the angle where you would see the addition most visibly. And this is taken obviously on Moravian Street West, and you would not see the addition from this angle. Final slide, looking from 15th Street from the south, and in these views, the addition also would not be visible to a general member of the public standing there. So we really, took some time to pull this back and make it as unobtrusive as possible. I have with us on the line Lee Hayden, who is the architect, and so if there's specific questions about the design, she's here to answer them. The rest of the materials that are in my slide deck are just the community letter that we sent out and this certificate of mailing. I've emailed those separately. Unless someone wants to see them, I won't take the community's time reviewing those slides. But I think I'll stop there because it's after 7 o'clock. No one wants to hear a lawyer talk quite this much, and open it up for any feedback or questions for me or Lee about any of the architecture.
Thank you, Jared. What we'll do now is, following our protocol, we will, I will ask for questions from the zoning committee members. So I'll just follow here the list. Ben Weintraub, Ben W., I see you've raised your hand.
Yep, just a quick question. Where do you stand with historic with the proposal, Jared?
Sure. So we met with the architecture committee today. We're meeting with the full historic commission, I believe, December 10th. And obviously, as everybody knows, the historic commission needs to give their approval for this to move forward. We had actually 2 meetings with the architecture committee. They provided us with some constructive feedback, and we are working to implement their comments.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just go down the list here. Janice, do you have any questions?
Sure, Jared, thank you for a real thorough presentation of the context. That was really good. Can you share with us any potential changes that might occur because of the architectural committee's comments today?
So right now, the architecture committee would like us to see if we can go to even greater lengths to increase the setback. So we are looking at that as we will be explaining to the full historic commission when we meet with them in the beginning of December. There are certain elements of the infrastructure of this building that make it extremely challenging for us to increase the setback. And so we're going to try to contextualize that further for them. The major changes that we made between our initial meeting with the Architecture Committee on September 25th and our meeting with them today, we had a wide variety of changes that included reducing the height, increasing the setback, changing some of the cornice lines to make it blend better. And I think the Architecture Committee recognized that we had made a lot of changes that made the project better, but they would still like us to see if we can pull it back further. So we're looking at that, but to be perfectly frank, we're not sure we can just due to the infrastructure of the building.
Just have one sort of additional general question, and that is if you could talk a little bit about the hours of operation for this and the lighting impacts, if you could describe any possible lighting impacts that might affect the area.
Sure. For lighting specifically, I'll ask Lee to chime in, as you know, she's really been the driving force behind the design. Hours of operation, I think, would be consistent with the Union League's current hours. We're certainly not intending to have people out on this area late at night. So it would mirror the current indoor dining hours.
Thank you.
Lee, can you speak a little bit to the lighting we have in mind?
We made a very conscious effort. There is no uplighting. All the lighting is glowing, and we have it recessed within the landscaping elements and in the architecture. It's very, the intent for the lighting is just to be very minimal, particularly anything that would be, you know, visible at night. So it's really to create a glow and a pleasant, unobtrusive experience.
That's all I have, Veronica.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions. Good presentation, Jared.
Thank you.
Charles Robin, any questions?
No questions. I just like to say that it was a wonderful presentation. The sight lines, Jared, of course, is de minimis, which you expressed, and I'm assuming that you've notified all the near neighbors and you've had no objections. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, our certificate of mailing was sent in to Veronica at the end of last week, and as you know, the primary surrounding here are commercial properties, so we haven't really received any feedback.
Right, and it can absolutely not be seen from Broad Street.
Right. It can absolutely not be seen from Broad Street. That is correct.
Thank you very much.
And just for clarification, I distributed your materials, Jared, to the committee, so they've seen it in advance of the meeting.
Thank you very much. I had every confidence that you had. Thank you.
I'm sure. Flora, Flora Becker, any questions?
Yes. I have a question about the historic designation of this building and how it can conform, or you can have this conform to a building with the historical importance of the Union League. The other question I have is in furtherance of an earlier question, and you can, the architect and you can say, well, we're going to have muted lighting, but this facility is obviously going to be put up to be a moneymaker. You're going to rent it out for parties and weddings and other such things. And what assurances can you give this committee that it will not upset the historical context and also the area? It is a commercial area.
Sure. So I'll take the second question first. And that is, you know, in terms of how it will be used, is the first thing to note is this is not a public venue, so it can't be rented by just anyone for an event. It is for Union League members. So the volume of things that would happen up there would be far less than if this were some sort of an entertainment venue. You'd have to be a Union League member to have an event there. And the intention is really just to have it as an extension of the existing dining options. I would like to think that the Union League has been a pretty good neighbor to the CCRA community and tries to do things that are unobtrusive and not bothersome. And we certainly intend to continue in that vein. So, you know, that I think the long history of their conduct in the area should speak somewhat to how we would intend to use this going forward. In terms of the historical, that's an excellent question and something we've been dealing with for quite a long time now. I think, the reason that the city has the historic commission process is just for the point that you're making, that we all recognize this is a historically certified building, and any additions to it need to be treated sensitively and with respect to the original architecture. And so we're going through that process. So the how can this be done really is being enforced by the historic commission, making sure that we're following their guidelines and putting together a proposal that meets their criteria. In terms of what we think we've done to respect the historic intention, we spent quite a bit of time going through the Union League's own archives to find the original drawings of the building. So we would have a sense of what the person who designed it in the 1800s had in mind for this space. And so I did reference a 1906 rooftop addition plan that we found, and sort of used that to establish what our envelope was. We also, as we were meeting with the historic or the architecture committee today, showed them some of the material choices that we were contemplating. And those are limestones and other brick that is very close to, if not identical to, the existing Union League building, and certainly indicative of the buildings that are around it. So we are aware that this is a sort of landmark building, and we're trying to be as sensitive as possible with a full understanding of who the architect was and some of their intentionality for the space.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Ben W., I think you've already asked questions. Ben Z., Ben Zuckerman. Any questions? Ben, if you have a question, you're muted.
Okay, is that better? Sorry about that. You kind of went over it a little bit quickly at the beginning, but can you tell me what will be in the roughly 8,000 square feet of indoor space? I can see what's on the outdoor space.
Sure. So the indoor space, and I can let Lee talk to this more specifically in terms of the internal program, but it's going to have some seating, and there's going to be a kitchen and service area also.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
that's
what was the-
A kitchen and service area, but I'm going to let Lee, who's spent hours living with these plans, further articulate.
certainly.
Okay.
Yes, it's approximately 6,400 square feet of interior space, and within that is there's it's all dining, some banquettes, and a bar, and there's a kitchen, and then bathrooms, and then the elevator shaft, and then yeah, kitchen storage.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, moving down the list. Doug Miller, any questions?
Doug, you're muted.
Yes, you're muted.
It looks great. No questions.
Okay. Moving down the list, Michelle Zoll, any questions?
Yes, I lived a few blocks from the Union League for many years. I used to walk up and down 15th Street regularly, not always on the same side of 15th Street as that portion of the Union League is. But I would be very surprised if you couldn't very visibly see this structure from the other side of the street, first of all. I also,
You saying that as an opinion or as an architect?
I say that as an opinion. It to me looks somewhat antithetical to the whole building. And as Flora mentioned, it's a tremendously important historical site. And it just, to me, doesn't fit. One of my questions would be, what is the need for this additional space? The Union League has a fair number of rooms in its interior. It is a private club. This space, for example, would not be open to public access. And I don't quite know has the Union League's membership dramatically increased? I understand historically it's been a few thousand members maybe, but I don't understand what the purpose is other than, as Flora was suggesting, it might provide another revenue source for the building. Can you speak to that? And then I had some other questions. Can you speak to what the actual need for this addition is?
Sure. So I think, as we have all seen over the last 20 months, the world of how we access dining options has changed. And unlike many other facilities in the immediate area that had streeteries or outdoor seating, Union League has not done that. And they haven't attempted to or want to do that in terms of expanding out onto the sidewalks. But they do need some outdoor space where they can offer a dining option that's not solely internal to the building. And so that's what was really driving this, was to have some outdoor space that members of the club could use should there be future public health issues or something like that. I'll also say that the nature of any business is to continue to expand or you get stale. And so trying to expand the offerings and the amenities that the Union League has is really, as any other business would try to enhance what their offerings are. And so that's part of adapting the club for a modern clientele also.
Why would you not consider a streetery, given that so many other restaurants on 15th Street and all over Center City have done so? I'm just wondering why that would not be something you might consider rather than large addition.
That this was just more of a permanent option that could be a sort of a permanent enhancement rather than something that was temporary. And also the nature of the Union League being a private club, we think lends itself better to this than having spillage out onto the various streets.
Al, you mentioned that part of this addition will be a kitchen. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The Union League does have kitchen facilities inside the original building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think that the building is 4 or 5 stories high currently.
It may be more than that. Lee, how many stories are we?
5. Yeah.
5. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's 5 stories high. Where are the dining facilities within the building? What floors are they on?
It is my recollection, though it's been a little bit since I've been inside, but my recollection is that the dining options are on the street level and lower level.
And there's just one kitchen then?
Yes, there was one kitchen that serves dining options in the sort of sub-level and first floor level.
Okay, because my wonder was whether or not the footprint could be made somewhat smaller, could be reduced if one just continued to use the same kitchen facilities, but obviously you will have elevator access to this upper level dining space. Had you considered that?
I'll just say we actually did, yes. Unfortunately, by the time the distance from the kitchen to this
Mhm.
is just so great that by the time you would get any warm food would no longer be warm by the time it got up there. But what we did do is, and in the second iteration, is we really worked with the kitchen consultant to reduce the equipment sizes. And we really looked to make this as compact as possible so that, and we also have storage in the back. So we push that towards the back. So to minimize that. That's a great question.
Okay. And my other question is regarding the nearby residential buildings. When I did see your spreadsheet on where you were contacting nearby residents to see if there was any support and or opposition to this, you did include the Packard Graham, which is, I think, 111 South 15th Street. I did not see that you had contacted anyone at the Ellington, which is on the corner of 15th and Chestnut. That's fairly proximate to where you would be. And it's probably a sight line for folks on a particular floor with that area. So was there any reason that you did not contact that high rise?
Yeah, we utilized the list that was provided to us by the City of Philadelphia's tool for RCO notifications. So we submitted something to every address that was on the list that the Planning Commission gave us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ben Z, I see you have your hand up, and then we have two other members of the committee. Ben, do you have something pressing you need to say now?
I'm curious about the construction process itself. During construction, will there be cranes and other construction equipment blocking at least one of the adjoining streets in order to get everything up there and back down?
That is an excellent question, one to which I don't have the answer. Lee, do you have any knowledge of the construction? And if you don't, perhaps Scott might.
Yeah, I do.
All right, Scott is one of the people who is smarter than me, offering his input to this project. So Scott, please speak to the construction stage.
Sure. We've engaged a local general contractor to help us through the pre-construction effort. And they've put together a few logistical plans, primarily focused on how to get material and crew up there. So Moravian Street seems to be the designation where they would block off access through Moravian Street, vehicular access through Moravian Street.
And pedestrian also?
From a safety perspective, that's likely to be the case. We'll probably have to put up some sidewalk diversion pathways and so forth that you're familiar around the city that you see. We may have to put up sidewalk protection all the way around the building, just as like the streets department kind of requires that type of stuff for high-rise construction. So there's probably going to be some input from the streets department level to tell us how exactly and to what extent we do that. But at a minimum, I would say from a safety perspective, the pedestrian access through Moravian Street would be prohibited.
And how long a period of time do you anticipate that will require?
We're forecasting a roughly 12 to 15 month construction cycle.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So now we have two additional committee members. Robin, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. And Steve Rubin, any questions?
No questions. Thanks for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
I have one more question. May I?
Go ahead.
You talked about the Union League wanting additional avenues for people to eat out, etc. Isn't it correct that you also have outdoor advertising, outdoor eating at a couple of golf clubs and a couple of other private clubs? I mean, what is the business plan here to reignite interest in the center city at the by changing the footprint of this building?
Not exactly, no. I would say that the Union League has sort of divergent clientele. You're right, we do have a Torresdale Golf Club, and that does have a clubhouse that has dining options. But the members that are utilizing that facility are a different demographic and makeup than the users of our Center City location. And we wanted to offer Center City an outdoor dining option that the Northeast facilities have. And I think, yeah, it would be fair to say that this would be to reignite some interest in using the Union League and its facilities. But I think after 20 months of COVID, doing something to reignite interest in visiting the facility isn't a bad thing for the league or for Center City generally.
But the fact of the business is, this is an enormous space. This is as big or bigger than the dining room you already have. Is it not? I mean, you said 8,000 square feet.
It's approximately 6,400 square feet inside, which
plus the terraces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, it is similarly sized to some of the dining options on the inside, and the size and the location of where we're doing this on the roof, as I mentioned earlier, is sort of driven by the existing infrastructure of the building and where that elevator tower is. So in order to connect the building to the rest of what's beneath it, we sort of had to be near that elevator bank, and that's what's driving the location of the proposed addition.
Okay. I think that we've heard all the questions from the committee. Now, are there any community members who wish to ask, who are present, who wish to ask questions? I see a couple of names I don't recognize, but I'm not clear if they're Union League affiliated or community members. If you are a community member, please feel free to unmute and state your name and your address and your question. All right. I don't see anyone unmuting, so I understand from that there are no questions from the community. So Jared and Lee and Scott, thank you for your presentations. And thank you for joining us this evening, taking your time to be here and present to the zoning committee. We appreciate your time. What we'll do now is we'll move to closed session, and then we will communicate our decision to you via email.
Very good. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for taking the time, and wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good
Take care.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
And stop recording also.
Good point. Thank you for that reminder. So I will stop recording.
What will we do without you, Ben?